Kicking off our list at number 10, Seaside at home. Grab your goggles, friends, we're splashing around right off the hop. Seaside at home, it sounds fun already. The Niagara Wave Rockin' Bath. Yeah, sounds exciting. Are you tired of regular bathtubs that are stationary and or relaxing? Well, the Niagara Wave Rockin' Bath washes all of that away. The bathtub purposely designed to rock. Yeah, it keeps your blood in active circulation, apparently, medical experts say, and it only requires 3 pails of water. The patent also promises the fullest illusion of a sea or river bath, whilst promising absolutely no water will splash onto the floor. Yeah. Good joke. No way. There's absolutely no way. Imagine having this growing up. My mom would be yelling at me to clean up the floor every minute. No way. I'd get in and then immediately get back out. This thing sucks. Also, it's kind of scary. I don't want to rock around underwater. Number 9, Virtuous Saddle. The road to better health starts here. Horseback riding was the thing back in the 1800s, of course, but how does one practice in the comfort of your own home? Before Guitar Hero, what did we do at our friend's house, right? Vigor's horse action saddle. That's what we did. This saddle would sit somewhere in your home and take up half the space. Ideally a place where nobody else could see. Was always fun. And the way they marketed this thing, they made it seem like an actual health benefit. When really it's just like something that does this to you. On the advertisement it says it promotes good spirits, it quickens circulation, they love that circulation fact, it stimulates the liver, and it even creates an appetite. Ooh, I'm hungry already watching this. Watching somebody play VR like in the corner of the room, that's pretty funny, that's a weird thing to see. Imagine your roommate hopping on one of these. It's a little intimate, I'd say. Little rather intimate. Number 8, the MultiPurpose Cane. Again, enough with plain old canes. We're sick of them, all right? You know, the ones that help you walk around? Nah, that's old news. We're doing some new stuff in the 1800s. The MultiPurpose Cane has everything you need for your casual 1800s day, all in the palm of your hand. Catering to all gentlemanly pastimes, okay? Like for example, on the ad, it says, catching butterflies, sheltering from the rain, playing the flute. Okay, sure. And even a horse measuring tape, all in this cane. Nice, thank God this exists. I do all those things every single day, and now I can cut my time in half. Play the flute, measure a horse, and then Mary Poppins away. Easy. Number 7, fence cycle. Are you tired of walking along the fence all day long? If you're someone who does that, for sure. Yeah, perhaps you live on an 1800s farm and for some reason you have a really long fence with 0 twists and or turns and no nails sticking out, sturdy the entire time and completely flat. The perfectly long fence. Well, this holiday season, show your loved ones how much you respect their patellas and get them the fence cycle. Save them all that fence walking time. Hop on this weird saw contraption. There you go. Good luck. The upside down bicycle that could only work on flat fences. Nice. This patent here came from none other than Vincent van Gogh. Weird, right? Imagine this in the Toronto Van Gogh Experience exhibit. Get on these things and start wheeling around the city. You're like, this is wildly dangerous. Number 6, beauty patches. We need to bring back beauty patches immediately. Imagine Timothy Chalamet with an 1800s beauty patch on one side and Dune 2. Game over. Here's the Oscar. Take it. These patches came in all shapes and sizes, and even in this portrait from 1755, Joshua Reynolds painted Charles, the 9th Lord Cathcart, rocking a large beauty patch. Yeah, that's a pretty big one too. The guy looks like Nelly. What a look. That's confidence right there. That's a lord right there. Fabrics used in the 1800s were commonly small, tiny circles, sometimes even hearts or stars. Yeah, how fun is that? You'd think they were Arctic Monkey fans, but really, it's an 1800s star patch. Yeah. Gotcha. The reason for these patches, and sometimes having more than one, is because they were commonly used to cover up smallpox scars. Yeah, again, 1800s. They were made out of silk velvet and applied with glue, so pick your spot and be confident with it. The patches were dark black because they were meant to make your pale skin pop, you know, that Victorian era pale ghost look. The position of these patches could also determine your political allegiance. Yeah, who knew? Like your left, my right, hang on, we gotta get on the same page here. Historian Joseph Addison took note of these positions when observing 2 parties from the 1800s. One party had patches on the right side of their face and the other had the opposite. Yeah, one side starts losing the argument when you're just like, I'm just gonna flip that over real quick. See ya. Number 5, Burke and Hair. This is a little different, but you deserve to know. Medical schools were offering a handsome fee for deceased bodies. Yeah, so if you have any of those, bring them on out. That's great. We're gonna study those because it's the 1800s. So now an unhealthy amount of Victorians came up with a new solution to make some money: robbing graves. Yeah, it got so out of hand that family members were actually guarding the graves of the recently deceased. Yeah, like their usher at a concert. They're like, we gotta make sure no one gets in here. But nobody goes down in history like William Burke and William Hair. I'm gonna call this an invention, an idea, something. This is dark history. This is the darkest of all. See, they wouldn't wait until the body was done living, you know what I mean? They would actually take people's lives and then rush the whole process. They took 16 victims in total between 1827 and 1828. It took 16 victims for people to start catching on to this horrible pattern. Are you kidding me? After 3, I'd be like, hold on. The pair would lure victims to their house, they would fill them with alcohol, and then they would suffocate them. It was horrible. They had a sick system because the body needed to be in the best condition possible in order to receive the best payout from the Edinburgh University Medical School. Yeah, you can't, hurt your product and then sell it, if you know what I mean. That's horrible. But yeah, it's what they were doing. That's why they suffocated them. The Anatomy Act of 1832 put an end to this horrific idea, so yeah. That's a dark patent. We don't like that idea. Not all these are fun, cool bathtubs. Some of them are horrendous. Number 4, bird hats. Hey, there we go. Back to some fun Victorian stuff. Look, I don't have to say much about this next one here. I love a good hat. I've tried a few out here on the channel. I've worn a frontwards cap, tried the backwards. I love a beanie. Big winter guy, wear the beanie a lot. But I've never worn a bird, like a dead bird, on my head. That's something I'm not gonna do in the future. Spoilers, I'm probably not gonna go that route. Taxidermy was a hot topic back in the 1800s. Folks would rock the beaver bowler hat, and it was considered fashion. And to be fair, who am I to judge, right? It was a dangerous trend long term. Conservationists were saying that around 67,000 species of birds were all at risk of extinction due to this fad. So yeah, fidget spinners are a little nicer now than putting a dead seagull on your head and being like, hey, Merry Christmas. Number 3, holiday cards. Speaking of, today these holiday Hallmark cards, they go too hard, right? Like a little bit too much. Give me a blank space, I'll write some stuff and we're good. Don't give me this haiku, what? So specific. They have a card for everything. Birthdays, weddings, your stepdad's uncle's name's day, whatever. They have everything covered and it's great. Back in the 1800s, these holiday cards, they were brand new. This was a brand new idea. Nobody knew what to write or say or even draw. So they'd end up giving these artistic, sentimental scenes. It's literally a frog in a top hat riding a bike. It's like a carrot with a face. Haunting image really to receive on Christmas, but it's the thought that counts, right? So you'd see it and go, thank you so much. I'm gonna put this away forever. And number 2, servant stairs. Yeah, believe it or not, stairs were a common danger in the 1800s. I'm somebody who falls upstairs constantly. I fall upstairs, yeah. I have these big boots. Can't even walk in them. It's like Iron Giant over here. Houses were thrown up back then comedically fast. There wasn't a Mike Homes on Home situation. There wasn't even a building inspector that made sure, hey, things are safe. Servant staircases were also even smaller and they had less care. They were out of sight, built into narrow walls, often missing steps and cutting corners. That plus a tray of hot soup, it was next to impossible to move around without something horrible happening. And there were a lot of fatalities in these small staircases. Even today, around 12,000 people die falling downstairs a year. So hit that thumbs up and watch your step. Number 1, toilet troubles. Now the 1800s, it was a little dirty, a little nasty. You got water rocking around, splashing everywhere. You got mold growing out of your floors now. It was unsanitary to say the least. But it was also dangerous in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect. One of the greatest 1800s inventions was the bathroom. Yeah, just gonna go take a number 2. What a brand new idea. But it took a few tries to figure out the whole, methane gas situation. Yeah, spontaneous combustion of the bathroom was weirdly common back in the 1800s. Flammable gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide, well, they would build up over time with human waste. And human waste would build up in the sewers and eventually back up into your homes. Next thing you know, you're lighting a candle and your bathroom's blown to smithereens. It's gone. And it smells terrible. Couldn't imagine a worse way to go, really. Do you want to see some strange inventions from the 1900s, from the 2000s? You want to go back in time? Tell me what you want to see down below. I'll take a peek and then, I'll do some of them. I won't do all of them. Some are kind of weird. You guys give some weird suggestions sometimes, but,
Starting with the KCar. K-Car. Oh yeah, these babies saved early 80s Chryslers from financial decimation. Remembered fondly for being front drive, inexpensive to produce, and absolutely plebeian, this efficient series was versatile and it had many variants. It was designed to be an economy car with limited engine choices, primarily a dinky 4-cylinder engine claiming between 30 and 40 miles per gallon. The K-Car was the basis for multiple Chrysler vehicles once the launch of the Reliant and Aries standard entry-level vehicles pulled them out of the financial ground a little bit. There were the Dodge Aries, the Plymouth Reliant, the Dodge 400, and the Chrysler LeBaron. By the mid-1980s, however, the decision proved itself successful, with over 50% of Chrysler's profit coming directly from the K-Car brands. Naturally, you could give it the classic 80s do-up. The snazzy wooden belt around the outside, the CB radio, the Landau roof, and even velour bench seats with button tufting. Ah, the 80s. As disrespected as it was versatile, the lowly K-Car spread its plebeian roots and survived until 1995. For those of us who didn't see it in person, you most definitely have in movies and TV such as The Breakfast Club's red Dodge Aries and the cool Chrysler LeBaron convertible in St. Elmo's Fire. Turn your lawn into a Trojan battlefield by playing Lawn Darts, a game where you punt a 4-inch metal spike with a handle across your lawn and ideally not into your neighbor. Childhood. Alright, so this nightmare product didn't origin in the 80s, hell it wasn't even from the 70s. Lawn darts go as far back as 500 BCE Greece and are obviously inspired by the battle and hunting weapon a spear, which is known to be given a charging or spinning start before being thrown. They were banned in 1970 initially by the Consumer Product Safety Commission, but the manufacturers challenged the ban and a compromise was reached wherein a lawn dart could no longer be marketed or sold as toys or in toy stores and had to contain the following warning: not a toy for use by children, may cause serious or fatal injury, read instructions carefully, keep out of reach of children. But it's the 80s when children could do and did do whatever they wanted with reckless abandon without any supervision. Naturally, this was the time lawn darts became a booming trend once more and fell into the hands of the irresponsible. There are 3 known deaths relating to lawn darts. The father of one victim made it his mission to get the game re-banned. His campaign had the Consumer Commission re-evaluate the injuries and deaths lawn darts had caused, and oopsie, they had misidentified how many injuries there were that had to be updated in statistics. Turns out from January of 1978 to December of 1986, lawn darts were responsible for an estimated 6,100 hospital emergency room treated injuries, and approximately 81% of the victims were under 15 years old. So yeah, in 1988 the commission voted to ban lawn darts sale completely. Now that we're done spearing the neighbors, let's play some video games on the ColecoVision. The 80s saw the advent of so many video games that we love now: Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Super Mario Bros, Tetris, to name a few. So after nearly bankrupting itself in 1978 with the overstocked and failed Telstar units, Coleco once again entered the console market looking to dethrone the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision, the current kings of the video game hill. The ColecoVision was released in 1982. It boasted amazing specs for the time, which showed in its arcade conversions. They did 2 things to secure their success. First, the Atari 2600 contained no patented material and was made up all of off-the-shelf hardware, so ColecoVision's expansion module 1 was essentially an entire 2600 which could fit into the Coleco's expansion port, aka they stole the 2600's games without stealing them. This gave gamers access to Atari's large library of games on a newer, better device and fueled interest to swap over to the console. Secondly, Coleco reached out to Japanese-based company called Nintendo, paying $250,000 for the rights of super popular arcade game called Donkey Kong, which would become the pack-in game with the console. Between its release of August 1982 and the Christmas that year, ColecoVision sold more than 500,000 units. The console actually only went out of use when the manufacturer just shifted focus to computer games. How about we do some arts and crafts? We can use Puffy Paint. Back in the times where custom clothing wasn't as easily orderable online, Puffy Paint was amongst the hottest ways to adorn your garb with personality, alongside fabric markers and bedazzlers and airbrush and tie-dye of course. But Puffy Paint took it up a notch. Unlike 2D markers and overdone rhinestones, this paint went on wet, and as it dried it lifted to become quite literally puffy. Different levels of puffy could be achieved with different paints. Really sucked when you wanted a giant pink flower to be puffy, but giant puff didn't come in pink colors. It was even better if it was glow in the dark, since visiting a roller rink without some kind of glow fashion was practically a crime. Now you could match your favorite roller skates during disco hour. Yeah, Puffy Paint truly turned your favorite shirt into a 3-dimensional work of art, and it only started cracking and peeling off after the second wash. gosh, amazing. A sleepover favorite was the horror hotline fad. Hotlines were a big thing in general during this time. Even kids channels were advertising calling in to talk to your favorite cartoon character for a credit card fee that would have your parents ready to toss you out of the house. Horror hotlines in particular though, those were huge. They were generally 900 numbers, a premium high-rate telephone number that is charged by the minute. These lines didn't become profitable for the average person to run until 1987 when AT&T launched a national call program allowing people to make money privately off of 900 numbers. Prices were often set up at $2 for the first minute and then smaller but still substantial sums for each minute afterwards. For horror stories, this is perfect. You could keep your listener on the line, building anticipation and fear in a story that keeps them hooked, willing to pay another few cents just to hear the end. Some examples of these numbers were 1-900-909-DARE, based off of the 976 Evil horror movie that is literally about being possessed through a horror hotline, 1-900-490-DEAD, which was a zombie hotline, 1-900-660-FRED was used to listen to the terrifying dialogues of Freddy Krueger. I could go on, there's truly hundreds of these. 900 numbers tapered off due to the increased regulation in the mid-90s. This is because even though these numbers, very obviously aimed at children, did instruct anyone under 18 to ask parents for permission before calling, most did not. This resulted in some exorbitant phone bills and angry parents. The FTC made it illegal in 1993 to advertise 900 numbers to children under the age of 12 unless it was educational. Thankfully, adults were still able to use them for their version of entertainment, if you catch my drift. Another kid-aimed item was Freezy Freakies, which sounds way more inappropriate than it actually is. These are actually the item on the list that if it were to come out again, exactly as it had been in the 80s, it would still sell nowadays. Kids who grew up in the Northeast were pretty invested in this fad that might have gone unnoticed in warmer areas. It's a thick winter glove that when the temperature dipped below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, an image would suddenly appear on the material on the top of your hand. 30+ designs were released, the most popular being a robot, a unicorn, rocket ships, ballerinas, rainbows, snowflakes, and various sports themes, though the I love snow with a heart were the most popular amongst all ages. The secret to the $13 Freakies was thermochromic ink, a temperature-sensitive dye that's being used in mood rings and heat-sensitive food labels and can appear translucent until it's exposed to warmer temperatures. At the height of Freezy mania, the manufacturer was moving 300,000 pairs of gloves per year, and while Freezy Freakies lasted well over a decade, by the 1990s things had cooled. Color-changing ink for coffee mugs or beer cans was more common, wearing down the novelty, and knockoffs had also grabbed licensed cartoon characters, which the Freezies were never interested in pursuing. Regardless, they're still available for purchase today. Taking it from the back 40s to the small screen, it's a duck hunt. Quite literally. Like said, there was a lot of video games coming out in the 80s, but Duck Hunt was unique. This game is what popularized light gun video games, games where you can use a real prop to interact with the screen. At the time of its release in '84, Duck Hunt was pretty much the first of its kind. The game was released for and by Nintendo, first as an arcade game, but then a launch game for the NES system in North America in '85. You would use the CRT television for my youngins, that's the big curved one that takes up like 4 cubic feet and has a green haze over the screen your parents could use to suss out if you're lying about watching TV before they came in the room, and the NES zapper to shoot ducks appearing on said screen. They'd appear 1 or 2 at a time and you'd only have 3 missed shots before you're out. You hit the right amount of ducks, you're on to the next level. I played this not too long ago on an old CRT myself, and nothing says entertainment like being 2 feet from a screen and getting made fun of by your best friend for getting game rage at an '84 video game. Beginning with the nationwide rollout of NES in 1986, Duck Hunt was one of several titles Nintendo included in a pack-in game with some of its releases. It remains the most sold-out shooting game in the world. One fun tidbit I'll leave you with is the legacy of the Duck Hunt dog. It's only known by this name and would accompany players in certain game modes, notorious for laughing at you whenever you miss. The dog went on to cameo in another NES game, Bill Barker's Trick Shooting, but he also cameos in 2006 Wii Play and in 2011 Wii Play Motion. In 2014 Super Smash Bros., the dog and one of the ducks appear collectively as playable characters, and the Duck Hunt team and stage reappear in the 2019 Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. In 2015 film Pixels, it's the dog's best appearance, a cameo where it's given a trophy by the aliens and adopted by an old woman. The most memorable name on the list has to be Blockbuster. I can smell old carpets riddled with soda and mildew now. Nothing says luxury like wandering here on a Friday night to rent a copy of the newly released River's Edge and crush on a young Keanu Reeves with your bestie. In 1985, the first Blockbuster opened in Dallas, Texas. Yeehaw! At the time, most video rental stores were private ownership and offered a limited selection of titles. Seeing as Blockbuster had some 8,000 tapes displayed and readily available and a computerized checkout process, us? Well, the first store was an unsurprising success and they expanded rapidly. They eventually became the largest providers of in-home movie entertainment and expanded to video and board game rentals as well. By 1985, Blockbuster was America's leading video chain with some 400 stores. By the early 1990s, Blockbuster launched its 1,000th store and expanded into the overseas market. While in the 80s they reigned, the 90s they fall. In the mid-1990s, the DVD made its debut, and with it came Netflix, the online DVD rental company, and Amazon video stores. Pay-per-view was an additional stab to Blockbuster's gut. The additional competition of being able to watch instantly without leaving home was just way too much. In 2004, Blockbuster tried to keep up with the online DVD rental service, but it just couldn't compete with Netflix's. On September 23rd of 2010, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. By 2014, the last of the company-owned stores had closed, and that, kids, is how streaming killed the video star. No more monkeys jumping on the bed, especially when mom installs the waterbed. Oh yeah, these little baddies dominated the sleeping world for quite a while, and sure, they weren't invented in the 80s, rather the late 60s, but these beds were all the wave in the 80s. Get it? Seriously though, the 80s were the height of waterbed fame. It was as if they hadn't existed prior. After experimenting with chairs filled with cornstarch and even jello, Charlie Hall, a design student at San Francisco State University, hit upon the idea of a mattress full of water. Their advent suited the swinging 60s lustrous mindset. One company claimed that two things are better on a waterbed, and one of them is sleep. And Charlie Hall did sell waterbeds to Hugh Hefner to cover in Tasmanian possum hair after all. By 1971, Time magazine reported that in Manhattan, the waterbed display at Bloomingdale's department store for a while was the popular singles meeting place. But we're talking 80s, when the waterbed had successfully made the leap from lonely, luxurious bachelors to the suburban bedroom. At the peak of the waterbed craze in 1987, more than 1 out of 5 mattresses purchased in the US were waterbeds, meaning that they were more mainstream than a regular mattress. So why did mainstream vanish the way it did? Couple reasons. That sexual association, great marketing during the 1970s and early 1980s, became albatross by the 1990s. It also had technological shortcomings. They had very heavy wooden frames, required a hose to fill and empty. Moving them was disastrous, and I mean algae or leaks are a concern. Even nowadays, mattress retailers have expressed a client can lay on a mattress and love it, but learning it's a waterbed makes it an immediate no never mind. Mainly the reason's simple. Waterbeds emerged during a time where the culture embraced anything different, especially a product that embodied sexual liberation or creative freedom. We aren't the same anymore. Before Pokemon, Garbage Pail Kids were what got you sent home from school for not paying attention. Man, did parents and teachers hate them, but that is part of what made kids love them more. Everything about these cards was about irony and puns, from the name to the art to the literal mocking origins. Garbage Pail Kids came out in 1985 as trading cards depicting a character having some comical abnormality, deformity, or terrible injury or disease, all with a humorous wordplay character name such as Atom Bomb or Blasted Billy. Many of the cards' backs feature puzzle pieces that form a giant mural, while others vary depending on various series, from humorous licenses and awards to comic strips. The cards were actually made to parody the Cabbage Patch Kids doll franchise that was booming at the time as a boys' product alternative. And it worked! Garbage Pail Kids quickly became the coolest thing around, with over 800 million cards making in the hands of children everywhere. The cards even inspired a live-action movie and an animated TV show, both made in 1987. The movie was so bad it grossed out critics and earned several Razzie Awards, which is a satirical awards show for cinematic failures. Cabbage Patch Kids got the last laugh, however. After suing, the producers of Garbage Pail Kids settled outside of court to remove the resemblance between the characters and to change the logo design. Production of the cards themselves continued, but by 1988 the sales had dwindled and a planned Series 16 was just never produced. These cards were banned, traded, and now collected. Some of these vintages are worth fortunes nowadays. Such as number 10, Basilica Cannon. So I really have been out here thinking all the types of cannons were just like big and small. I didn't really know they had actual names, but the Ottoman Empire's military technology was obscenely advanced, featuring firearms, gunpowder, and now cannons, thanks to their inventor Orban and the Emperor Constantine of the Byzantine Empire. See, Orban offered to sell his ingenious invention to this emperor, but Constantine couldn't afford the price. His attempts to bargain just dissuaded Orban from selling it to him even more. So Orban sold the cannon to the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror, who was practically salivating at the mouth when he learned that this device could smash through walls with a giant projectile. After purchasing these cannons and their 3-month build time, he used them to defeat Constantinople in 1453, taking only 53 days to take over the city and the Sultan's status. The cannonball, which could be shot at a distance of 1 mile, weighed 1,200 100 pounds. Due to its size, it was dragged by 60 oxen and 400 men. Additionally, due to the material the cannon was constructed of, the intense heat created by the charge after each shot made the barrel have to be soaked in warm oil to prevent cold air from penetrating and enlarging the fissures, and it prevented it from being fired more than 3 times a day. Ultimately, it only lasted 6 weeks before it became non-functional, and the loading and transport of the cannon killed some of its operators. For a first-time invention, I'd say that's at least still a pretty good track record. Number 9 is a water pump, a 6-cylinder monoblock water pump to be exact. Now, this is an insane and impressive invention. Created in 1550, it was innovative and made to run off of the water it pumped. So, piston rods, lead weights, and then of course the delivery pipes all worked as part of a system of an oscillating water recycling and pumping device. The use of water wheel technology was widely spread in the Middle East before and after Islam. It's from this long-lasting heritage that Muslim engineers adopted and improved this technology and applied it everywhere. In the city of Murcia, for example, during the Islamic rule of Spain, a water wheel was established, still known today under the name La Aurora. Although the original wheel has been replaced by a new one in steel, the original system that was built for it is otherwise unchanged. Muslim engineers used 2 solutions to achieve maximum output from a watermill. The first solution was to mount them to piers of the bridges to take advantage of the increased flow. The second solution was the ship mill, a type of watermill powered by water wheels mounted on the sides of ships moored in the midstream. It seems, according to historians of technology, that the earliest descriptions of this kind of machine in the West goes back to Cardan in 1550 and Ramelli in 1588, meaning that Taki was amongst the first to describe this water machine as he finished his manuscript in 1551-52, and that made him the first to produce the actual machine when he built it. Furthermore, it proved a remarkable invention as it helped with the water supply to the city's empire. Number 8 is the invention of mechanical clocks. So, as you may know from our past Ottoman video, the Ottomans were incredibly advanced in astrological and celestial body understanding. That's how they achieved observatories and also astronomical clocks that indicated the positions of the bodies like sun, moon, and other planets. Taqi al-Din's, yes, the guy who did the water pump from the last segment, created a clock that could set off an alarm at a specific time. And while the alarm clock wasn't necessarily new, users could actually set Taqi's clocks to go off at a specific time because of the peg he placed close to the dial wheel. When the dial was set to a specific time, the peg would set off the ringer when the clock arm touched the time. This was also the first clock capable of indicating hours, minutes, and seconds, aka he essentially invented time of day. This was obviously a significant breakthrough. All clocks existing before were inaccurate or still sundial based and couldn't be relied on for correct astronomical data. But Taqi's invention meant that the world can now record accurate astronomical information. Logos are number 7. That's right, they've had a long journey to what they are now, with glowing neon signs, the branding on our jeans, the image on your favorite soda can. All of it is traced back to the Ottomans and their invention of tugra, an imperial trademark where writing takes picture form to denote a branding. How this started, according to legend, was an illiterate sultan who had followed the sacred practice of the sultan's silence, but he could also not sign. So, in order to tell his name, he once dipped 3 fingers in ink and then impressed them on a page. As a result, 3 lines are virtually unchanged and remained in all Sultan tugras to come. All of their tugras included the 3 lines as well as 2 ovular loops on the side and the Sultan's name, his father's name, and the phrase eternally victorious. While all tugras had those features, they were all changed and unique to each sultan. All sultans as well as princes would have their own tugra, which court artists created anew with each ruler's succession. Perhaps the best historical examples are not so much the very similar sultan logos, but the kind of graphic symbol tugras used by the Ottoman officials on documents, coins, and other objects, as well as to mark buildings. Pastrami is gonna be number 6 because why not? Meat preservation outside of North America's indigenous clans goes back to the Romans and the Huns, but the Ottomans' take on it has become a widespread comfort food. Here's how. The Ottomans advanced meat preservation methods by slow drying quality meat, oftentimes beef, goat, duck, or mutton, with days of smoldering or pressure, then further preserving it with herbs, spices, and of course salt. There are even records of making pastrami by placing the meat in saddlebags where it was pressed against the rider's legs as they rode. So the result was a jerky-like meat, deep in color, strong in flavor. Because of the spices used and the meat's portability, the recipe migrated along the spice route of Eastern Europe before landing in the lap of Romania, where an adapted version of the recipe traveled with Romanian Jews to Lower East Side New York when fleeing persecution. Jewish Romanians began to make this preserved deli meat with beef as it was the most available, and due to the advent of refrigerators, they were also able to use a weaker salt brine and develop a softer form of cured meat, which was finally named pastrami. The current version in Turkey is made by rubbing beef in salt to cure it, drying it in open air for several days, and covering it with a thick spice rub. Original to its tougher, jerky origins. Forward date bank checks are number 5, because its continuation has caused modern day Turkey to have a relative immunity to the global banking crisis. This practice actually came to be due to the Quran chapter 2 verse 282. The verse is quite long, otherwise I would quote it directly, but instead I will summarize that all debts must be kept in writing, on paper, under the written guarantee of 2 witnesses and with an expiry date, rendering every citizen to a bank and creating paper money when these debt papers were transferred. To ensure the fairness of any documentation, it's one of the only times where 2 women could actually substitute for 1 man as a witness. This is to guard against the possibility that one witness may marry the other. But this practice is actually banned in the West. While there's a lot of debate as to why, the main opinion is that it was simply the Westerners being mad or confused about how something worked in a region that wasn't theirs and banning it in their own, like how the Vikings being clean was slanderous to Brits. No matter what, the Turkey banking infrastructure saw pure benefit from this forward dating. Number 4 is medical tools. The Ottomans contributed hugely to modern medicine and the understanding of conditions, something we'll talk about a little later in the countdown as well. Ottoman surgeons, yes, they were doing surgeries way back then. They were first using bamboo shoots, shells, and even their cleaned fingers as their surgical equipment. They learned how to stimulate bladders externally to help surgical patients relieve themselves as well, like a human catheter. For these reasons, the Ottomans, with their stash of precious metals, went to work inventing forceps, scalpels, pincers, lancets, and the catheter itself. All of the modern versions of these listed surgical items are direct recreations of the Ottoman Empire's, advanced to be suitable in our modern times. Also, usually thrown away after one use. Additionally, I'd be remiss not to mention how they inspired modern medicine by establishing the first hospital and health centers. But wait, there's more. The healthcare was then divided based off of patients' sex and treated them completely separately, even training female physicians to try and aid in the comfort of female patients in a male-dominated medical field. They also adopted the holistic approach to treatment. They believe that when a person is sick, it affects the total being, including the physical and spiritual aspects. Number 3 is data protection laws. So similar to the forward date checks, this little thing has made a huge difference in the long run. The Ottoman Empire was extremely complex in terms of its multiple legal systems and hundreds of ethnicities and religions, so they began to document everyone and everything and base records on them, preserved in a Shari Deftered record book. Obviously, this data had to be correctly entered and double checked with whom it was about to ensure its accuracy. Obviously, this employed many people to do, and there was even developed control techniques and cipher shorthands to make the process quick and efficient and detailed. On top of that, if a page was to be ripped, removed, stained, torn, anything that created an inconsistency or damaged records, it was punishable by death. Ottomans developed multi-religious, multi-ethnic governmental system where each community had its own legal, educational, and social services. Nothing like that it was really the same in our modern world. Meanwhile, tucked away under cities, in museums, and in government buildings are millions of books waiting to be decoded, read, translated, and analyzed at the Ottoman archives. Number 2, we revisit what I promised, psychiatric care. Revolutionary is a great word for the Ottoman understanding of mental illness and disorders. Nowhere else was this level of understanding really found at the time, which was over 20 plus diagnosable mental illnesses that they named, wrote descriptions for, and learned how to treat. Now obviously they're different from our modern terms, but they're actually very accurate and symptoms were well recorded. Some are incredibly descriptive, capturing conditions we see today such as BPD, depression, insomnia, but also things like sleep apnea, epilepsy, and dyslexia, and so many other more conditions. Even nicotine, alcohol, and opium addiction is documented. These classifications are found in the Ottoman medical manuscripts between the 15th and the 18th centuries. A majority of neurological illnesses are mentioned under the title of diseases of the head, and this is because illnesses caused by a central peripheral nervous system were, well, physically in your head, so they felt it counted with mental illness. So, knowing what they did, the Ottomans catered to it. They built separate health facilities for people with traumas and mental illnesses where they were cared for and looked after until their release or until they passed. These properties had gardens, recreation activities, books, songs, and lots of access to fresh water and beautiful scenery. All of these items were believed to return a person to themselves so that they may feel whole and healed again. Music also played a factor in healing. In fact, music therapy is number 1 in our countdown. The The Ottomans believed that the cosmos were created by the word ka, as ordered by the universe's creator. This means that the beginning of the cosmos was started by a sound. So because of the belief that God was comprehended through a spoken word or sound that were also perceived as a letter, the essence of existence is believed to be a sound. Letters were believed to be the representation of human essence as a result. This correlation played an important part in the belief that music therapy might re-establish the upset harmony of a patient, creating a sane balance between body, mind, and emotions. Patients suffering from certain illness or the emotions of persons with certain temperament were expected to be influenced by specific modes of music. Certain makams, musical notes, were prescribed for therapeutic purposes. Modes put into patterns, songs, were believed to express special meanings. Though there are about 80 Turkish modes, usually only 12 were prescribed in therapy in accordance to the limitation of the related theories of cosmic elements and numerology, as it is in the Islamic and ancient sources. From old texts we can deduce the kind of music which was supposed to cure a certain kind of disease or create certain feelings and favor certain behaviors, though musical modes of those days are not the same as the ones we know today.
Number 10. The bullet mousetrap. You might have heard me say that and said, what? Which is exactly what I said when I saw a mousetrap that's main killing potential was to fire a lead slug Minuteman style at a small rodent. It is no exaggeration to say that the difference between this mousetrap and a musket is that a musket weighs a little bit more. The mousetrap was loaded just like a traditional musket of the time, with black powder, a lead ball, and even a percussion cap. In all honesty, I'm not sure how you go about defending this mousetrap. Textbook definition of overkill. Also, you know, there's a loaded firearm in the house with a hair trigger that a small rodent could set off by gently grazing it. I like to imagine a fun family game of, do I no longer have a sister or was that just a mouse, after hearing a small musket fire inside the home. I also had to mention that while the immediate danger of a .32 caliber lead ball finding a new home in your stomach is frightening enough, black powder being black powder is very volatile and produces a lot of energy. Fire hazard. Smokey the fire safety dog does not approve. Number 9. Tea for men. Winding the clock back to the 1800s, you'll find pictures of distinguished ladies and gentlemen. And these distinguished gentlemen have the fullest and thickest mustaches ever grown by man. Much care is needed to maintain such a manly image. So when an established gentleman goes for his morning tea, it would be rather unfortunate to get his mustache wet and ruin his dashing good looks. An invention of the 1800s beckons to solve this issue with the mustache cup. Mustache cups were invented so the chivalrous men of the day didn't ruin their grooming rituals with a cup of Earl Grey tea. The cups had a small porcelain mouthpiece with a smaller hole for drinking, while the main piece would protect the stash. It may sound ridiculous, but it almost looks like a modern travel mug. So maybe they were onto something. Number 8. Nightmare story. I don't know about you guys, but no matter how you present them, dolls are just creepy. Have you ever noticed that when someone has a creepy doll, it's never just one? There's always a bunch of them for some reason. I don't know, I wouldn't want the room to feel safe or welcoming after all. One man in 1871 said, I know, let's make them even creepier by having them move themselves. The creeping doll, as it was called, was a doll-like automaton that had clock-like gears to simulate real human movement, with the addition of hidden wheels underneath to aid in the doll moving across the floor. Because, you know, the last thing I need is this doll creeping into my bed at night. Whew. Number 7. Gee, this cane is heavy. As people began to settle down after imperial monarchies went the way of the dodo bird, it was a good idea in everyone's best interest to limit people carrying weapons. If people didn't have swords, it could make another revolution a little less bloody. But what's that I hear from upper class wealthy people who don't want to listen to the rules that they make? Well, how about concealed and hidden swords? Yep, that's right. Cane swords were a popular fashion accessory in the 19th century. As carrying swords fell out of fashion, royal men needed to take swords with them for self-defense, or so they thought. Even women were concealing these hidden bladed inventions in parasols. However, it was socially unacceptable for a woman to have such possessions, let alone have the ability to know such training. As time went on, the hidden compartments that held blades were replaced with my personal favorite item, a flask. Number 6. Look at all these cool chickens. Let's face it, we all went through our awkward phases in life. And if you didn't live through the early 2000s as a youth, then bands like Linkin Park and My Chemical Romance just don't hit as hard. So when trying to find the weirdest inventions of the 1800s, I felt like closing my bedroom door and playing Green Day as I dye my hair because I'm super serious about how I feel. Why do I feel this teenage angst, you ask? Well, that's because there's rose tinted glasses for chickens. Yeah, and they're cooler than me. Oh, yeah, little tiny eyeglasses for chickens, but they actually have a good use. They were designed to prevent pecking and cannibalizing other chickens. Ooh. The theory goes that if a chicken was wearing rose-tinted glasses, he couldn't distinguish between blood and what wasn't. That way they wouldn't attack each other. Yet another heartwarming comfort from the 1800s. Number 5. I'm coming out of this hole, partner. We enjoy many luxuries in the 21st century. Warm houses, everyday appliances, and the freedom to shout profanities at strangers on the internet you slightly disagree with, but you give them the business anyway because it's been a bad week and you deserve it. But probably what we should all be thankful for is modern medicine. Back in the 1800s, it just wasn't where it is today. A great example of that is safety coffins. A truly grim situation. A medical doctor has declared you dead. Now you are being buried alive. Have no fear, friends, because you had enough money for a safety coffin. The coffin contained a device or means of various designs, which was to alert the living of your mistaken burial and hopeful resurrection. The very rational fear of being buried alive most likely was spun from fiction and news at the time, with the occasional case happening here and there. However, I'm of the opinion it should be a never ever kind of thing. Yeah, no thanks. Number 4. Your bad hair day has just been terminated. Oh, to live in a time of industrial revolution where machines go and go. I'm sure that all this heavy industry won't enable bad practices of corporations and usher in the destruction of our environment. Pfft, no sir! This is the age of machines, and if machines can help with one thing, it most certainly can aid in another. May I introduce you the Rotary hairbrush? Why brush your own hair when an overcomplicated machine can do it for you? At the time, it kinda made sense. Machines felt like they were the way of the future. They were kind of right, but at this rate everything in the home would have intricate pulleys or a steam engine attached. Steampunk anyone? Number 3. Full of air. The Industrial Revolution changed the world, we can't deny that. That can also be said for the steam trains. But what about pneumatic powertrains? Back in the 1800s, a man named Alfred Eli Beach came up with such a design. Prior testing had proven useful enough to build a larger demonstration in New York. So he built a tunnel to test his air-powered train. It only ran a short distance, but the train held 22 people and was controlled by a roots blower nicknamed the Western Tornado. That was also my nickname in high school. Sadly, the project didn't receive much support from the government at the time, and other methods for trains eventually took over. Unfortunate, because it sounds like Alfred Eli Beach was very dedicated to the project, as he put up a very large sum of money to the project. The tunnel that housed the short train line was completed in 58 days. While he did have bigger plans for his train, it kinda just became an amusement for people. It was shortly shut down thereafter. But 58 days, that's pretty quick. I'd like to see that happen in a major city now. No way it's happening. Number 2. Get on my mongoose, bro. Looking at the Motor Scout, you can see the beginnings of what could be a 4-wheeler. Personally, I think it looks like a mongoose from Halo, but mom thinks I play too many games. Designed by F.R. Sims in the late 1890s, it was never really meant for off-road terrain, instead to support infantry on smooth roads. Sims, understanding the annoyance of trying to ride your motorized quad cycle while someone is firing at you, placed a Maxim machine gun on the quad to return fire. Which is strange, because usually these things require a team of soldiers to operate. He also added an iron shield for a little extra protection. It is too bad the next major conflict would have a lack of usable roads and more trenches than anything else. While it never did see combat, it was somewhat useful, and would later inspire Sims to design the first armored car. Number 1. Bro, trust me. Everyone has a favorite article of clothing. For sports fans out there, it could be a lucky jersey, but back in the 1800s there was an article of clothing no British soldier could be without. The cholera belt. What does a cholera belt do exactly? Well, it helps to prevent cholera. I've got good sources, bro, trust me. The running not so scientific theory at the time was that any abdominal issues and sickness was caused by a chilly belly. So simply make your tummy warm and voila, cholera has been prevented. British soldiers in India were often given the belts unaware of the biohazard that was an epidemic. The belts were just flannel that basically wrapped around you. It's a good thing we're not superstitious today and would never buy into such ridiculousness. Hey man, did my order of healing crystals come in? I'm getting some bad voodoo vibes at home lately, man. I totally need to cleanse that space, bro.
Starting our list off at number 10, VR. Okay, I recently got an Oculus and I felt sick a lot. I was so dizzy right off the bat. The game's super hot where you have to like throw items at bad guys. I actually got anxious. My palms were sweaty, my heart was racing. Olivia straight up cried when she tried it. It was a wild ride. This is pretty powerful technology. Black Mirror, of course, has toyed with how VR could go wrong, but The Simpsons also predicted its dangers all the way back in 2016. The episode titled Friends and Family has the town of Springfield excited over this new VR tech that's finally arrived. They're so into it that eventually people are walking in the streets while wearing these headsets. They're bumping into walls, they're smacking their heads, they're ignoring real life obligations. Cut to now with Facebook going the virtual route recently with the introduction of the metaverse. I believe The Simpsons actually undermined the dangers for this one. Yeah, you thought pop-ups and sketchy links were bad for your family on Facebook? I don't know, soon we're gonna be walking into virtual pop-ups. That's gonna be pretty alarming. $3 billion worth of VR was sold during the pandemic alone. Connecting during times like such can be vital, but how far is too far? Which room am I in? I'm in the laundry room like sword fighting someone. I'm like, what am I doing right now? Number 9. Drones. I mean, sure, drones can deliver packages now in like 13 minutes flat, and sure, they can fly through bowling lanes in cinematic fashion, but could drones be so advanced that we're actually mistaking them for alien aircraft? Possibly. We don't know how advanced these things are. We have no idea, not even the military. Back in the early 60s, the CIA had this secret program called Project Aqualine, where they used these small drones with a low radar cross-section, a little camera, all that spy stuff, and it was disguised as a bird, believe it or not. The first prototype was a bit obvious. It weighed over 100 pounds, it was this massive eagle-looking thing, but the only way to catch the drone was to fly it into a net, which broke something almost every single flight. Cut to 2022, it looks a little bit differently. Now there's like a bird conspiracy, people don't even believe birds are real, and there's for sure a drone pigeon out there somewhere. Number 8, 3D printing. This is something that did not exist when I was younger at all, in any way, shape, or form. All we had were those spider markers that like connect the dots that are like kind of sticky. That was it, that's the closest we had to 3D printing. Now people are printing swords in their basement, I don't know. Connor on our gaming channel, he printed a Pokeball and it looks awesome. It's a real size Pokeball. Now he has one of those because he printed it. It's becoming increasingly popular as they're becoming more accessible. Unlike the traditional printer, 3D printers are able to print and create these three-dimensional objects on the spot. It's fascinating how fast it works. This technology is continuing to advance, and some printers now have capabilities of printing out food and even organs. So that's great, but again, where is this all going? How far are we gonna go? Sounds like it's a kind of a bad idea. It feels good, but so does everybody in the first 20 minutes of a Black Mirror episode. Know what I mean? Like, oh, this technology is fascinating. Then they're like stuck in some virtual matrix for 40 years. Number 7, smart TVs. Survivor season 42, episode 5. That's it, that's how easy it is right now. That's where we're at with technology. Remember TV guides? That's gone. Ask your parents about TV guides. Just watch the trauma return in their eyes when you ask them that one. I didn't know this was something that people were worried about until I looked into it. I love my smart TV. It's got all the apps. I can speak into the microphone instead of using the terrible Prime search function. I don't need cable as well. It solves so many problems and the picture is great, but not everybody feels so on board with these smart TVs. Apparently smart TVs are so smart now that they're also keeping tabs on users' viewing habits, which viewers are worried will somehow allow criminals to hack in and then steal their personal information, which more than fair. This is a new technology. I have no idea how to do it. My dad has no idea how to use smart TVs. Oh my God, that's a nightmare all the time. There might be something that I'm missing, but do I want to find out? No, I don't know. Imagine someone hacking your TV in the middle of the night. Anonymous just appears. That'd be so haunting. I would not want to get out of bed. Number 6, self-driving cars. If you own a Tesla, first of all, nice. Bravo, must be nice, that's great. But comment down below how often you actually use the self-driving feature. I imagine that it's terrifying. I don't know if I could ever use that. Just click it and just, okay, hope it works. I watched this body cam footage the other day online of someone being pulled over in a self-driving car because they were asleep at the wheel. They were asleep, but they were driving, well the car was driving, but they were having a nap. They were on their way to work asleep, you know what I mean? This is where the line gets kind of hazy. Do we want this technology to go further? I don't know. I kind of want people awake on the road. Call me old school. I mean, there are plenty of reasons why this feature makes sense, why it could be exceptionally helpful, and why, you know, there are people who are clearly on board with the idea, but there are also some things that are rightfully a major cause for concern. One of the most debated and truly one of the biggest questions surrounding this is an ethical one, like, will a self-driving car prioritize its driver over other road users in any given situation? Know what I mean? Something happens, who's it gonna prioritize? Someone you're about to hit, it's gonna prioritize you. How do we make those real life decisions? We don't. Well, we do, but computers, they don't. Number 5, Google Glass. Smart eyewear technology, that's cool. You want to feel like Tony Stark? Sure, I get the idea. Ideally, when it's worked out, this pair of shades can make you a little bit of a superhero, okay? It's able to display information and content in a similar way that a smartphone would, only, you know, hands-free. It would be only voice control, wearing a heads-up display like Google Glass or even a modified version of VR. Now or later, I don't know if I'm on board, to be honest with you. These can contribute to eye fatigue and may cause visual confusion. And also, this may mess with your memories, scientists say. You'll get a pop-up in the middle of your kid's first birthday and your whole memory is just ruined forever, you know what I mean? I don't want that. I don't want a computer or notifications anywhere around me. My phone's bad enough, let alone Google Glass. Middle of a conversation, a really dirty pop-up comes up. You're getting coffee with your parents, you're like, close, please. Number 4, robots. Oh God, here we go. We're at a point now where robots can straight up do parkour. Boston Dynamics is trending every other week. Half the time I can't tell if their videos are real or fake. These robots are just too impressive. Sophia the robot. Yeah, she's been on talk shows. She's a fun time. Let's talk about her for a bit. Sophia the robot is the first robot to ever receive citizenship from a country. Can you believe that? She's legally from Saudi Arabia. Sophia is a citizen, and this robot citizen was on talk shows saying how she wants to destroy humans. And then everybody around on the talk show laughed and went along with the bit. Could this slowly be underway? Is this a marketing ploy? I don't know. Either way, I don't like when robots say again, hey, call me old school. I don't like when robots do shit. Number 3, flying cars. Where we're going, we still need roads. Ideally, Marty, let's do it. Even scarier than self-driving cars. Cars that fly. I never want this, personally. I can't even parallel park now, let alone in the air. Know what I mean? This idea started to get real back in 2017. You may have seen it online. The concept of a futuristic hover car was revealed officially. It was called the Renault Float Car, and it wasn't as cool as we thought, but it's a step, definitely a step forward. There's numerous companies working on a floating car right now, and to be honest, by 2024, we could actually see these things on the road. So heads up or forward. I don't know, just stay awake on the road. Just drive, please. Number 2, mood rings. Okay, for these last 2, we're gonna jazz it up a little bit. I'm gonna pick 2 inventions that thought they changed the game, but really, they didn't at all. This 70s invention was a real gem. Pun, we got it. The mood ring, as far as fads go, not the best, not the worst. It's nothing like our number 1 spot, but it's quite close. The stone that would change its appearance due to your body heat. That was the, you know, the magic of it. But some folk actually let this ring make decisions for them in real life. The mood ring was the bee's knees all around town. Joshua Reynolds and Maurice Ambatz created them in 1975. They added some love, or some lies rather, to the mix, and now we got a popular fad. Yellow meant that you were nervous. Blue meant that you were relaxed. And red obviously meant that you were mad, right? Of course, take your ring back and your $8. They sold 40 million rings in just a few months alone, making around $20 million in sales. All for a ring that just likes your body heat. My mood ring says that I'm angry after hearing that fact. So let's move on. Finally, number 1, silly bands. Oh boy, where do I even start with these ones? I remember taking part of this craze when I was in high school. I had like 11 of these all wrapped around. 0 circulation, but you know what? I was cool. They were literally just rubber bands that made a silly shape. And most of the time, the shapes weren't even that silly. It would just be an anchor or a hammer. That's not silly at all. The same team that made the Live Strong bracelets were responsible for silly bands, and by 2010, thousands of stores were selling them. It was hot. You couldn't even buy these things, honestly. They were sold out, I remember. I was part of the mob trying to get those silly bananas. Classrooms had to ban these because they were too distracting. How embarrassing is that? The iPad came out in 2010, yet they had to ban silly bands in the classroom. We love it. Silly bands made over 100 million a year. I'd say it's worth it for that guy. The guy's swimming inside of his house now because we wanted the $ shape wrapped around our wrist for some reason. So you know what? He got us. Eat the rich. I'm like, yeah, eat the rich, but stop buying silly bands at the same time. Know what I mean?
Number 10, the Hula Chair. Here's another gem from the depths of the infomercial vault of nonsense, and seriously, there's a lot. Look, as a Canadian, we still love consumerism. Sure, but not as much as the United States, but there's still a lot of mom and dads sitting on the couch every Saturday with the fat credit card, just waiting for the next life-changing product to come across the screen. So that means we get to see those awful infomercials too. You're not alone, Americans. That includes the Hula Chair, the latest mechanized weight loss product that promises to keep you in shape with minimal effort. should be the spokesman. Well, sign me and the rest of America up, baby, because the Hula Chair is a motorized chair that swivels to keep you moving while sitting. Something like this, a little hula movement for you, something like that, wow. Demonstrations of the chair show multiple speeds, the fastest looking more like a violent throwing than weight loss, and well, no surprise, it doesn't work, and they're just not really around anymore. For good reason. Number 9, the Potty Putter. This was ridiculous. Golf. The sport for wealthy businessmen across the world and for every schmuck who wishes they could get into the clubhouse. That's me. I like the clubhouse. It's cool. I don't mind a round of golf, but I'm more excited for the ice cold beers during the day. It's why I prefer mini golf. What can I say? I like the simple things in life. So maybe I should get a potty putter. A miniature golf set for the bathroom. Just what everyone needs. Me to spend more time in the bathroom, hog out the toilet. Sorry boys and girls. Complete with green, putter, 2 golf balls, and a little hole with a flag. Now you can practice your putt and grout the tile at the same time. I'm not sure where to begin with this, but if there's anything to be said, it's that toilet time is toilet time. I don't think I have to tell you guys how unsanitary sharing a golf club in the bathroom is. Ooh, stinky. But hey, at least it comes with a do not disturb sign so people know you're getting your practice in. Ooh, better not disturb Dad. He's on back of the hold line and he's about to put it in for a good one there. He's about to put her in there. Number 8, the Edge of Glory. This is another case of excellent marketing through cheesy commercials at 2 a.m. The Edge of Glory is a knife sharpener that promises to take all of your old kitchen knives and turn them into a samurai's blade. Okay, not an actual katana, but the sharpness of one. As Anthony Sullivan demonstrates in the infomercial, there's nothing it can't do. Like I said before, the Edge of Glory is just clever marketing. It doesn't do anything that other whetstones or blade sharpeners don't do, and there's no way they're going to outperform the competitor at 3 easy payments of $29.99. So call now. No, I'm just kidding. It's on this worst invention list because they slapped a new name on something that already exists, and plus it's probably made a lot cheaper than the real stuff, and they're just begging you to bust out your credit card. So yeah, that's why it's on here. Makes sense. Number 7, the Euro Club. Back to the golf inventions because Dad, sure. Okay, let's make a scenario. It's July long weekend, and you're spending time on the golf course like all the other dads who don't want to spend time with their families. It's hot out, so you've been slamming back beers like a frat party. Plus, the older guys just want to see the beer girl come back with another round. Gross. Beer guys can be gross sometimes. Anyway, it's a busy day and you're playing between groups. All of a sudden, you have to use the washroom, but walking all the way back to the clubhouse is not an option. Thank goodness you have your Euro Club, the discreet and sanitary option for urinating on the golf course. God damn, it's gross. A thick-handled golf club fits right into your bag with the others, but it's actually a portable washroom. Look, I get it, cute idea, but I'm a man, and I know men. We'd rather just go find a bush, complete with a thick golf club and a little blanket to put over yourself so you have a little bit of privacy while you do your business. We should have one for the gym. You don't want to get a dumbbell or something, you know what I mean? See, now there's an idea. That's a smart idea, one for the gym. Number 6, Skinny's Instant Lifts. Okay, so the Edge of Glory is shifty. It's shady, but at least it has the potential to sharpen your blades, which I think we can all agree having dull blades sucks. See, I should be a spokesman. This is a product that's not only something you have in the home, but well, you probably have lots of it. Basically trying to pull the wool or the tape over consumers' eyes. To sum it up, Skinny's Instant Lifts are strips of adhesive tape that can fold, pull, and keep in place unwanted saggy skin, fat, and just the more flabby parts of the human body. We all get old. It happens. It's happening to me. I'm getting older. And we all don't look like we did when we were 18. I look pretty close, but I'm getting older. And we can all understand how people would hand cash over the table to look better, or look like they did when they were 18. Can you blame them? You can't. That being said, taping yourself up like a 3rd grade science project isn't going to help. So, in a nutshell, they're just trying to sell you Scotch tape. It doesn't... That's a terrible invention. Let me just tape myself up here. I'm ready for the party in a minute. Let me just pull all this in. Yeah. No. Number 5. Chia Pets. I know everyone has heard of the Chia Pets. Shout out to all the gardeners out there. How are the strawberries growing this year? I hope good. Yeah. The Chia Pet is a terracotta pot filled with chia seeds that will eventually grow chia sprouts. The catch? The terracotta planter or base is almost always featuring some sort of recognizable icon. So when the chia grows, it resembles the hair, fur, or some sort of color contrasting part of that icon. Some include Chewbacca, Weird Al Yankovic, Donald Trump, Abraham Lincoln, Yoda, Baby Yoda, Scooby-Doo, SpongeBob, Shrek, Bob Ross, Homer Simpson, and many, many more icons, especially of Americana iconography. Whew, man, that's a mouthful. This one isn't the worst, you know, because you need plants around the house. You gotta have some plants. It brings the house together. It's just hard to imagine folks dishing out dough for a cool terracotta pot and a commercial tune that everybody knows. Chia. Number 4, Shag Carpet. On a personal level, I'm not a carpet guy. Chris, get your mind out of the gutter. Get your mind right out of that gutter, buddy. No. On a personal level, I'm not a carpet guy. I'm just too much of a man. Or at least that's what my mom says. Okay, sure, I spill food all over myself all the time, but I'm not that bad, ladies. Come on. I put the toothpaste cap back on after I'm done brushing my teeth, so I can't be that bad. I'm just a hardwood floor kind of guy. I think it looks nicer, it lasts longer, and is way easier to clean, especially when you got guys like me around. So you can understand why I put Shag Carpet on this list. Popularized in the late 60s and early 70s, there wasn't a home magazine around that didn't feature Shag Carpet. Known for its long fibers and wacky colors, the Shag Carpets resemble that of an animal hide that never stopped growing fur. Very popular with the hippie and free love crowds of the 60s and 70s, like I said, but it's hard to clean, ugly, and sometimes, strange enough, a tripping hazard. And I don't like that in the house. Tripping's bad. I felt the other day, it really hurt. I got a blister on my finger now, it's bad. Number 3, the lava lamp. Where would the 60s and 70s be without Shag Carpet and the lava lamp? It kinda goes hand in hand, along with the Shag Carpet. In another fad from that era, it seemed every college dorm around wasn't complete without one. That being said, they're more of an eye candy than a functional light. Invented by Edward Craven Walker as he was bored one day in a bar. So a lot of good ideas start. Sure, thanks Edward, but no one ever says, oh no, it's so dark in here, better turn on my lava lamp. You got my, right, thank you, perfect. Trouble is, to make that lava flow and that desired effect, it needs a heat source, which usually is done through a light bulb underneath the main canister of lava. Now, while most modern lava lamps are completely safe, the old ones? Well, you gotta be careful around older electronics like that, especially if you've ever seen Mythbusters. While the light bulb may not be enough heat to cause any issues, an external or excessive heat could render the lava lamp to erupt, and it's not good. See that episode of Mythbusters? Oh, it's not good. It's lethal, actually. Number 2, the Power Glove. The Power Glove. Could you really own anything more 80s than the Power Glove? The Power Glove was an accessory for the NES that allowed players to use motion controls on 2D games, complete with a retro sensor bar and number pad to input codes for your controller to work with the current game that you're playing. Well, the truth is, folks, it just sucked. It doesn't work properly, it gets sweaty and smelly easily because a lot of it's actually just a glove. At the time, there was no internet, so if you didn't have a code book or knew the code to input into the glove for your game, you literally couldn't use it to play the games that you wanted to use it for, thus rendering it useless, and I argue that's a bad invention. It's so silly. I'm playing with power! Number 1, Rob the Robot. Lastly, another NES accessory, except this one was for lonely Nintendo players. Basically, Rob the Robot was a second player when you didn't have one. He was battery operated and used a variety of spinning tops to push down buttons that you had, well, some control of to simulate the efforts of a second player. The issue here? Well, he requires both D and AA batteries. He's slow. Oftentimes, after extended use struggles to pick up the spinners he uses to input controls into the game. And he's officially only compatible with 2 games. Stack Up and Gyromite, which I can tell from the audience's silence right now that they've never played those games on the NES. Duck Hunt, Mario, Zelda. Stack Up? No, you didn't have Stack Up, don't lie, you didn't have it, you never had it.
Number 10, Daylight Motion Pictures. I saw Avatar 2 last night and I shit you not, the lights did not turn off for the first 5 minutes of the movie. Yeah, it was chaos. People were yelling, ushers were throwing their visors at the lights, it was chaos on Pandora. You need complete darkness to enjoy a movie. For personal preference, obviously, but for the projector's sake, we need to see the damn light, okay? It has to work. Back in the 1910s, daylight motion pictures were normal for a hot minute. Can you believe that? This trend moved across the country right after a bill was passed. So theaters went from dark and enjoyable to bright enough that you can now see who's sitting next to you in 4K with your real eyes in a bright room. It was a safety hazard for theaters to not have the lights on. Can you imagine if this stuck around? I would be so pissed. Just this bright the entire movie, we're like, all right, I think it's the Avengers, I don't know. Number 9, spray on hair. The babes are back. Yeah, that's what this real advertisement says about spray on hair. The babes are back. Look, I'm 28 and I know that a lot of guys have bad luck hair-wise at this age. This spray is not the solution, okay? This spray is not it. Just don't, this isn't it, my guy. This early 1990s product did not sweep the nation. Men did not regain their youth for $39.99 plus shipping. Didn't happen. It just looked like spray painted cobwebs. You know what I mean? It was like wet. It was very Halloween wet. It had like that damp, dewy morning look. I don't know. The advertisement legit says the babes are back. Yeah, which implies that the babes noticed his bald spot, decided as a group, you know, they had a meeting, made it official, and then they all left. Which is just not true. Women love bald guys. Vin Diesel, The Rock, Patrick Stewart, Professor X, are you kidding me? He summons the babes back. He's like, come. Number 8, ab belts. All right, here we go. Perfect product for the guys who want an 8-pack without doing any of the work. Just gotta shake your shit around. This is horrible. You're gonna shit your pants doing this. The ab belt sounds too good to be true, and that's because scientifically it is. Ab belts in the 90s were as hot as Tom Hanks was at the time. It was crazy. Everybody had one of these in their household. I think we may have had one growing up, now that I think of it. An ab belt, did I have it? Maybe, I don't know what it was. We also had a bowling ball growing up, so I don't know, parents are weird in the 90s. Science can confirm that wearing an ab belt has no real benefit whatsoever. It does not make you strong like Thor. That's not how it works at all. If your company is thinking about making false claims, well, expect real lawsuits to follow. Number 7, walking sleeping bag. Dare I say a perfect gift for the sleepwalker in the household. Here we go. A sleeping bag, but with footholes and a face hole. Also, no holes for the arms, just legs and face holes. That's it, 1, 2, 3. I can't think of a more dangerous product to possibly sell. Now, as somebody who has broken his front teeth twice, I can say with full confidence this is the worst product in history. One misstep and you're just watching your oncoming doom right in front of you and you can't even stop with your hands. I get it on paper, this thing sounds cozy for a few minutes and sure, I guess it's fun, but what about when you can't find the zipper inside? Then what? Now you're David Copperfield and you're trying to escape death. I hate sleeping bags in general. Do you sleep in sleeping bags? I hope not. If so, get out. I don't know, get a blanket. I don't know, I put myself into a hole. Number 6, portable record players. Remember when iPods came out and it was like 1,000 songs in your pocket? That was a big deal. That actually changed the game. You know, technology-wise, that was it. We went up from there. Portable record players, not so much. That's like 8 songs in your pocket. That's really nothing in comparison right there. Back in the 80s, right before cassette players and Walkmans hit the street, this was the only way to listen to music on the go. That would really suck. That's horrible. That's like a really hot period of time there. And it looks so silly too, obviously. The thing's so big. I don't think records are meant to be on your person with headphones. Like, what are you, Mozart? What are you doing? What is this that you have attached to your waist? It looks like an IED. Get this off, this is terrible. A portable record player is not a good idea, now or then. In order to enjoy Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, you of course had to remain completely still. You're like, hey guys, come on, listen. Nobody f***ing move. Number 5, radiated toys. The Gilbert U238 Atomic Energy Lab, nice. This toy set sure looks fun upon first glance, but when the company released this kit back in 1950, it was all but games. Gilbert, who was a successful toy maker, businessman, and even magician, always a red flag I guess, he believed that his line of work should be fun yet informative. Yeah, one of those nerds. He was nicknamed the man who saved Christmas after he convinced the US Council of National Defense not ban toy purchases during World War I around the holiday season, so that's cool. He really wanted to get this product out there and still make money during a war. What a hero. This set was around $50 too, which back in the day was a lot more than $50 now, and the price was justified as the set was actually radioactive. Sorry, what? That's right, the Gilbert U238 Atomic Energy Lab contained a cloud chamber where you can actually see real alpha particles traveling at 12,000 miles a second. Yeah, imagine asking for a light bright and you get this. You're like, oh cool, radiation poisoning, that's awesome. I'd rather find coal. Next. Number 4. Burke and Bronze Radium Chocolate. This sounds like a bad time already. Radium chocolate? That's horrible. These delights were sold between 1931 and 1936, and it was praised for the effect that it had on consumers. See, instead of getting a tummy ache after downing some of the Burke and Bronze chocolate, you would feel rejuvenated. The chocolate was made in real radium water, guaranteed. That was the selling point, you know? Real radium water. That's, if you see this, you're either playing Fallout 4 or you've gone back in time. This is not looking good. Looking back now at the details that I just provided you, you can imagine the horror stories that slowly began to spread over these new delicious treats. It's the holidays, you know, you gotta be careful. Lindor always messes me up. That's a bad one. Lindor and radium chocolate both really upset my tummy. Number 3, mood rings. I'll admit it, these blew my mind at one point. I was 4 years old and I could not understand the science behind a mood ring. I was relying on these things every single day. The mood ring was a 70s invention famous for, of course, its changing appearance. How does he do it? Nobody knows, right? That's the magic of it. Joshua Reynolds and Maris Ambatz were the moody masterminds behind the whole fad. And in 1995, the pair sold 40 million rings in only a few months. Yeah, what colors are angry again? Because I'm very that color right now, just hearing that fact. Number 2. Spring spokes. There's winter tires and then there's spring tires. Here we go. This is, one of them works, one of them doesn't. Back in 1905, which didn't even know there was cars back then, automobile manufacturers tried to create spring spoke wheels to make your commute a lot smoother, right? If you live downtown Toronto, here you go. This is gonna save your day. You would hit a rock and then go boing, and then all of a sudden you would be at work. Sounds perfect. Sounds like not a hazard at all. This of course didn't last in history. We don't have these at all outside today, thankfully. Wheels were breaking under pressure. They were wobbly, which is certainly the last thing you want while you're driving to work, I assume. I don't have a car, commute kid. Spinners are sick. You want to jazz up your ride, grab some spinners, throw those on your Jeep, you're good. You see any spring wheels? Just keep moving. And finally, number 1, earthquake machine. Nikola Tesla. Of course, I have to save an invention of his for number 1. This man knew a thing or two about electricity, and legend has it he made a steam-powered machine that could actually cause small earthquakes. Yeah, sounds like a supervillain, but okay, science, I guess. Tesla's electromechanical oscillator, or earthquake machine as I call it because it's a little easier. Legend has it, it actually caused a small earthquake in 1898 in New York. Yeah, in New York too, that's like an Avengers level threat right there. Now, Nikola Tesla told this at his 79th birthday party, according to his biographer, so there's no science that support these claims, therefore, was it real? Probably not, but it's kind of fun to think about, right? The vibrations on this machine was basically a massive taser, and it caused your muscles to clench up. And, you know, ergo, things would leave your body after you'd clench, so yeah. Nikola Tesla, was he a supervillain? Comment down below, sounds like it.